Now let us come to the essential of the bill of exchange in this second video lecture. The first essential of the bill of exchange is similar. If you see the definition, section 5 of Indian law and section 3 of English law, both is talking about that it has to be in writing. The second essential of bill of exchange is that it must be an order to pay. An order to pay means that it must be a request from one party to another party, and the payment has to be made to the third party. So it's an imperative request. Now language is very important. If you see especially the English cases of Ruff versus Webb, Little versus Slackford, and Hamilton versus Spottiswoode, I will take up the first case for discussion, that is Ruff versus Webb. In this, the plaintiff Ruff, who was a servant of defendant Webb, when defendant dismissed the service of plaintiff Ruff, the outstanding wages which was to be given by defendant to plaintiff, defendant rather giving the money gave a draft to the plaintiff, and the language of the draft was that Mr. Nelson will much oblige Mr. Webb by paying to Ruff order 20 pounds on his account. When this matter was there before the court, and the court has to resolve this issue whether this draft was a bill of exchange or not, the court, while interpreting the language used in the draft, the court said that this was an order to pay, this was a request, and this request was an imperative request, and that is why the court held this draft as a bill of exchange. Later on in other two cases also, the court relied on the language interpretation of the language used in the draft for coming to the conclusion whether an instrument is a bill of exchange or not. The third important essential is that the order has to be an unconditional order. So for an example, if the order is that to pay rupees 5,000 out of the proceed of the sale of a house, obviously this is not an unconditional order because the amount has to be paid after the sale of a house. So this relates to a condition and it will not be termed as a bill of exchange. The fourth essential is money only. We have already seen in a promissory note that the subject matter of the negotiable instruments are basically money only. The parties must be certain. By parties must be certain, we mean that the parties must be reasonably certain and must be certain by the name appearing on the instrument. The drawee must be certain, the drawer must be certain, and the payee must be certain. And if they are not certain, then the consequence will be that the instrument will become a dishonor instrument. Now coming to the last essential, as we have seen in the promissory note case also, that if there is any negotiable instrument, it has to be properly stamped. Same is the case in case of bill of exchange. Thank you. In the next video lecture, we will take up a differentiation between promissory note and bill of exchange.